Cody Rall here with Techforpsych interview series. Today I'm speaking with Dr. Jordan Amadio, who's quite an inspiring individual. He's a chief neurosurgery resident at Emory University in Atlanta. Now, several years ago, Jordan co-founded a company called Neurolaunch, which is a Silicon Valley-style accelerator program for neurotechnology companies. Jordan was nice enough to speak with me before sitting down on a panel of judges in the Psychiatry Innovation Lab, which looks for technological innovations in mental health.
All right, Cody Rall with Techforpsych. I've got a very special episode today. I've got Jordan Amadio. He's chief resident at Emory University, and your list of credentials is actually quite long and intimidating, actually, but you do have a business degree from Harvard, correct?
Correct.
And so you're doing this thing called Neurolaunch, and I was hoping you'd be able to just tell us a little about what Neurolaunch is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Cody. So Neurolaunch is the world's first accelerator program for neuroscience startups. And so we exist to support entrepreneurs in the neurosciences and help them make their ideas a reality. We're modeled on the Silicon Valley model of accelerators, which emerged about 10 years ago. And the purpose of an accelerator is to take a very early stage company, kind of at the pre-seed level, and really give the founders all they need to accelerate their success. So that means mentorships, partnerships, space to work in, curriculum, and access to our community, and last but not least, some funding. So we do provide funding and investments in companies.
I'm sure that people really appreciate the help with getting the companies off the ground, because it's gonna be a really difficult thing, right?
Yeah, it's been really exciting. So we've worked with 11 portfolio companies thus far. We've held events in 3 different cities. So we're based in Atlanta, Boston, and San Francisco. And we're expanding to other geographies as well as we build out a global community. We're really excited about it.
So is there any technologies you've seen lately that you're really excited about that are coming online that would help with neurosurgery or neurology or psychiatry, any of the fields of medicine dealing with the brain?
Absolutely. So the 4 areas that we've identified as being the highest growth areas for the future of where we're heading with helping founders. One is brain interfaces and neuromodulation.
Yes. Okay, cool.
One is neurotherapeutics. One is what we call neurodigital, which is the intersection of how digital technology interacts with the brain, how we can use digital technology to understand the brain and vice versa. And the fourth is mental health and wellness, something you guys know a lot about. And I'm really excited about the intersection again of computer technology with neuroscience. It's already enabled us to do incredible things. We now use neuronavigation in the operating room to do 3-dimensional reconstructions of the brain or spine that actually guide us in surgery. We've been doing that for about 10 years, but we're now going a lot further and being able to do that in the cloud. We'll use machine learning to identify what common characteristics amongst patients can help us do surgery in a more efficient way and a safer way. And so we're really at the early stages. One of our portfolio companies, Mint Labs, has an entire platform for doing machine learning in the cloud with neuroimaging. It's just one example. Yeah,
I looked at their website and they had these beautiful images of the brain. With the brain-computer interface, are you guys using any specific brain scan technology, or how are they doing the interface there?
There's 2 types of brain-computer interfaces that we're going to see. One is invasive, and so it actually requires surgery to implant. There's the famous BrainGate project out of Harvard and Brown universities about a decade ago, going back to the early days, where they actually were able to implant cortical electrodes into people who had suffered a cervical spinal cord injury and were tetraplegic. These people were then able to control a computer cursor on a screen, even a robot arm. So that's an example of an invasive brain-machine interface, and I think the potential there is still very, very strong. We still have a long way to go in developing technology. It's a very exciting future. There's also a non-invasive brain-machine interface, which can pick up patterns that are typically electrical. So it's surface EEG. And there's a number of companies now, a number of startups that have developed technologies that are even being sold to consumers. So these are consumer-grade technologies that enable you to interface with your smartphone.
You got Emotive and Muse; those companies are getting it.
Right. There's a lot of companies on the market now. Most of them are sensing, so they're using EEG, essentially surface EEG technology to sense brain activity and then use software to actually parse out what that means.
Yeah.
And they're getting more and more sophisticated. There's some founders that are working with there in stealth mode now out in the West Coast who are actually trying to develop semantic analysis, actually figure out how do you distinguish yes versus no from the EEG signal. And so, we can talk more about that later. But
where do you think we'll be in like 15 years?
I
Any
think,
projections?
Yeah,
on how it's going to come along?
Yeah, I think we're going to be entering an era of pervasive neurotechnology. And just like, we all have smartphones in our pocket now that we kind of run our lives through, we're all going to be aware, even average citizens, of how our brains are interacting with our environment.
Yeah.
And our technology is actually going to reflect that. And it's not going to be, in the science fiction-y way that some people might imagine. It's going to be very seamless, and it's going to creep up on us without even knowing it. But I think a lot of these companies are setting the stage for a future that we're all going to be part of.
That's awesome. And I always like to ask people what their theories on what the brain is actually doing and how we interface with reality. I know it's kind of a big question, but do you have any ideas that you like to talk about when it comes to that sort of thing?
It sounds like a great topic for a long night over drinks.
Right.
But I think it's what drives me. I mean, like you, I'm in the neurosciences and clinical neurosciences, and I think a lot of people get into this field because they're incredibly fascinated by this organ that controls and is responsible for all of our thoughts and actions. And it's, to me, the greatest mystery. The 1990s was the decade of the brain, but I think that was premature. I think we're now entering the century of the brain. The 21st century is the century of the brain. And we're going to see radical changes in the way our society interacts with neuroscience, much as we did with computer technology over the past 40 to 50 years.
Yeah.
That's coming down the road, and we're part of that. I think we're lucky to be part of it.
Actually feel privileged to be a part of it. It's very fun. Thank you so much for doing this with
Absolutely.
us.
This was fun.
Yeah. Cody Rall with Techforpsych. If you guys have any questions for myself or Jordan, just leave comments below on the video. We'll try to get back to you. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks. Hey, it's Cody Rall with Techforpsych coming to you from the Potomac, Washington, D.C. waterfront. And what I've noticed in the past 2 years of doing this is that you, the viewer, really wants to get involved with neurotechnology, but you don't necessarily have means of doing so. Now, I'm going to tell you how you can do that in just a second, but first I just want to thank you for being a part of this community. It's a group of people that are interested in self-development by using principles in neuroscience and innovations in neurotechnology, and it's been a great ride so far. Now, let me tell you about the brain games. We here at Techforpsych want to put on a competition in which mind athletes come together from around the country and compete in different cognitive domains to include meditation using biofeedback, memorization, control of robotic limbs and drones by using brain-computer interface and decision-making skills. Now, the mind athletes that win each category are going to be recognized nationally, win prizes, and get to work with neurotechnology companies to help develop their products. In addition, mind athletes can agree to undergo brain scans and other studies in an effort to democratize their cognitive strategies for the population. Now, if you're interested in supporting the brain games or entering as a mind athlete, subscribe to the channel here and take a look at www.techforpsych.com. Subscribe to the email list. We'll keep you updates on the Kickstarter campaign where we will consider certain donation amounts as automatic entry fees to be a mind athlete if you want to do so. Again, subscribe to the channel, take a look at the website. The more people that we have on board, the better that we're able to talk to academic institutions, financial backers, and neurotechnology companies to help make the brain games a reality. It's Cody Rall with Techforpsych. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk to you next time soon.